And this Lunch and Learn is going to be about effective communication with students. So in this Lunch and Learn, we're basing this upon the results from the student panel that we had a couple of weeks ago, and we're using the information from survey results as well. And one of the things that overwhelmingly students responded when they feel a connection to their instructors that's built through effective communication. And then they find that that little bit of connection that they feel helps them achieve more in college. And we're going to talk today about tools and strategies for that effective communication. So I wanted to share with you a few of the student responses that we had. For instance, one student responded, Professor O'Hara did a really great job of connecting with students both through email and also through Google Voice. And not being able to meet in person as often made it really difficult to ask those questions before, during, and after class. So it's really helpful that I could send a text through Google Voice about homework questions and receive an answer in a timely manner. Another response said, my instructor for Intro to Electrical Engineering course, ELC 500, connected with me via email and the Remind app, offering office hours, help, and additional study content. And this connection helped the student feel more confident in asking for help when they needed it, and it encouraged them to attend those student hours when they needed that help. Another student, Dr. Cano, offered weekly tutoring sessions based on student interest to help reinforce the material being learned in class. The sessions were guided by student input on weak areas, and I believe that the tutoring sessions were extremely helpful in testing my understanding of the material. And I have just a few more for you too. One of my professors noticed that I was missing assignments and wasn't doing so well. They reached out and helped me with anything I didn't understand. They offered to do Zooms if I needed any additional help. It gave me the motivation I needed to get my assignments turned in. Just that little bit of grace went a long way for me. Another student said, during one of my courses in the nursing program, an instructor wanted to meet with me in regard to my grade in the class. We connected through Zoom to go over a quiz and some information that I was confused about. This connection made me feel more comfortable moving forward with asking the instructor questions. And finally, when I think of connections I have had, I think about how all of my instructors saw me as an individual. I had one instructor see that I was not acting like myself and asked me to stay after class and asked me if I was okay. I had a tutor who emails me when I am not heard from in a week. And most recently, I had a teacher help me get through a very hard semester by having private meetings and help me create a study guide that could help me better. So these were some of those responses that we heard, real student voices here. So I have a question for you. How do you communicate with your students? And I'm trying an advanced poll feature here. If you have, the only issue with this one question, I have a couple other ones, but this one question, you need to have your updated Zoom, but let's give it a shot and see how it works. How do you communicate with students? You should see a poll question pop up for you. And I'm really excited it lets you put in a written response. Excellent. We have 5 responses so far, 6, 7, woohoo. All right, we'll go ahead and we'll end the poll and we'll see what it looks like. And we're going to share those results. So hopefully you can see some results there. We have some weekly announcements with substantive feedback. We have the Delaware Tech email, a personal email, D2L announcements, and trying to contact students who are missing assignments individually, and offer to meet in person or via Zoom using email, Google Voice, call and text, being able to use Zoom. Oh, there's that Remind app again. We see a mention for that. Drop in Zoom hours, email, Zoom, and Zoom mini conferences. And then another instructor who communicates with students in the medium that they feel comfortable with. And a staff member who keeps in touch with students who come into the office and uses email and a phone number, and generally text, emails, and phone calls. So we've got a lot of different ways that people are responding to students. We'll keep going with this as well. So it's nice to see that there's a good foundation for how people are responding. So how do you communicate with your students? We saw lots of different ways. We'll talk about the what and how of communication now. What is effective communication? It was really encouraging because effective communication has a couple of characteristics of availability and responsiveness. And this is true in a lot of research. In fact, my doctorate, when I was studying a lot of this communication, it came up again and again and again that instructors need to be available and responsive. Available is through those ways that you just mentioned, how you communicate with students, having a variety of pathways that students can reach you. And the purpose of that is to find a way that students are comfortable with. But it's not an expectation that as an instructor, you need to have 12 different pathways open, but it's at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 different ways that they might be able to respond to you. And already with D2L, you have email and instant messaging. And then you also have your Delaware Tech email, and right away, there's 3 ways. If you decide to set up Google Voice or something like a Remind app, then you can have another avenue. And then you also want to be responsive. We noticed in one of the student quotes, they mentioned a timely manner. And really, that needs to be communicated to students, how quickly they can expect you to respond. And it doesn't mean that you need to respond in 2 seconds either. It's pretty strange because in our society, we kind of have that expectation, right? If I text you, I'm expecting you're going to respond pretty quickly because I know you're someone who has your phone attached to your hand all the time anyway, right? So we've been kind of spoiled by that response rate. But one of the things that you can do is in your communication plan, which can be part of your instructor page in the Getting Started module, or you can find it in a template. You can provide students with the expected response times. That helps alleviate some of that anxiety that they might be feeling. Oh, I sent them a message and they haven't responded back to me. During the student panel, we had an instructor who said that she answers questions at 2 a.m. But it was pretty clear the students don't really expect that you're going to respond to them at 2 a.m. They might send you the message then because it's what's on their mind. But in your communication plan, you might say within 24 hours, I'll respond to you. You might even add, if you haven't heard from me within 24 hours, please send your question again, just in case it was lost in the system or in junk mail, something like that. And then we'll talk about how do you communicate effectively. We already mentioned emails and tools like Google Voice and Remind, and also looking in D2L, there's intelligent agents, announcements, and feedback tools. Let's dive in a little deeper. This particular Lunch and Learn, we're going to focus on your emails, kind of / intelligent agents, looking at feedback on assignments, and the ways that you can use your student hours. So let's think about this. I have one more question for you here. Have you used intelligent agents? So I'm going to put a poll up there. Have you used intelligent agents? Excellent. And your choices are yes, they are helpful in monitoring students. And no, they sound complicated. All right, we'll go ahead. We have almost everyone responded. We'll end the poll and I'll share those results with you. You can see with 64% have used intelligent agents. So that's good. We have 4 people though who said, that's 36% who said, no, I haven't used them yet. They seem complicated. So in this presentation, I want to show you a little bit of intelligent agents. But if you really want to be able to dive into how do I make intelligent agents, if you haven't really been able to create them, or if you want to see some new ideas, here's a link for you to Lunch and Learn where you can find more information. But we'll go ahead and we'll dive into this a little more deeply. For intelligent agents, this person has a construction hat because we're building these intelligent agents, right? They are a program communication that's scheduled based upon specified settings. That sounds complicated, but what it really means, and a lot of times we lovingly refer to them as IAs, but what it really means is that you can set D2L so that it will respond for you monitoring your students. So there are certain things that can trigger an automatic message from you. For instance, it might prompt students that they have feedback to an assignment. You can actually set it up to do that. I just learned about that recently, and I thought that was really nice to help encourage students to check that feedback on an assignment. You can congratulate students for a high score on a quiz, or you can provide them with some resources if they didn't score as well. If they respond to a discussion post, you can have an intelligent agent say, "Good job, thanks for doing that." And if you haven't had a student who participated in a while, you can have an intelligent agent let them know that they need to participate. So when we're looking at our intelligent agents, there's a few different reasons. The way that you can create an intelligent agent, though, is you go to Course Admin from the navigation bar, that blue bar, the nav bar. And I have it organized by categories. So communication, intelligent agents are found inside communication. But if you're doing it alphabetically, it's under I. And then you would start a new intelligent agent, just those 3 steps. So I'd like to ask anyone, if you've used intelligent agents, what have you used them for? Just out of curiosity.
I use it for the beginning one to welcome students, because sometimes it's challenging to know when students are added or whatnot. I find it really helpful. I don't have to monitor who gets added or whatnot. So it sends them that first week of class, welcome, this is what we're getting to do, ready to do, and all that sort of thing. And thank you, Carrie. She helped me set that up.
Carrie also put into the chat encouragement for a low test score with a link where they can find support. Excellent. And we'll look just really briefly, just a little bit about intelligent agents too. You might find a new thing, like how I found the prompt for feedback. We go into the nav bar, admin, course admin. We go to communication. You can have it alphabetically also. Communication, intelligent agents. And then we can have new. In our new one, you always have to be able to name your agent. And then this description can provide you with some support so that when you're looking, if you've set up a few, it reminds you what that agent was for. So here is the description. Maybe it's reminding you exactly what you're setting it for. Make sure your agent is enabled. That way it will run. This is one part I like. You can have it set to all users who are visible in the class list, or you can decide that only your students get it. So that you don't need to get it if you didn't fill out a survey, but your students need to. You can check login activity or course activity. Those are 2 different levels. And this is where you create those release conditions, create and attach. And I really just want to show you some of the options. You can set it for assignments like we talked about, awards. If you have any badges in your course, you can say, "Good job, you earned that badge." If you use checklists, class lists, we have competencies if you have those set up. Content. So if they've visited a page, you can say, "Good job." If they haven't visited the page, you can say, "Hey, you need to go there." Any kinds of posts in your discussions, scores on quizzes we talked about. And for instance, if you've put a survey into your class and they haven't completed the survey. It says no completed survey attempt, and you can decide which survey it is, and you can hit create. Now you can see all those conditions must be met, or any condition. If you were to set more than one condition, you would hit create and attach again. That's confusing because it's gray. It's not blue. It doesn't look like it's active anymore, but I can set more than one condition. So if I have 2 badges in my course, for instance, I want them to earn both of those badges and then they get an intelligent agent. I can set up more than one thing here. Then we have actions, taking action only the first time the agent's criteria are satisfied, or taking action every time the agent is evaluated. So for instance, I'm setting mine for them not responding to a survey. Do I want the agent to check every day and give them a message every day? "Hey, that survey's still there, don't forget." Or do I want it only just one time to remind them to do it? That's what you can decide there. You can send an email when that criteria are satisfied. If you want to be able to change the no reply at DTCC, check out that link to the Lunch and Learn that I sent you. Hillary does a great job describing that for you. But in this 2-part, if you forget what you can write there, I like to click on this little blue message and a pop-up comes up. It tells me, it gives me the option that I can pop in there this initiating user. I don't have to have that memorized. And it has this squiggly bracket, initiating user, squiggly bracket. And what that does is it fills it in there with the person who is in my course, who's going to be receiving this. I have to put in a subject. That's why there's a little star here. And I can say, complete the survey. This is an HTML editor here, so you can make this pretty. You can put in your Bitmojis. You can put in all kinds of formatting for your email message. You can upload files. You can even record a message. But this is the important part in the scheduling too. You want to decide on the schedule. You update the schedule. You can run it daily. I want them to know about that survey. I can tell it to run every single day. And then I can decide if there's a start date. Maybe they really need to respond within this week in order to give me the data that I need. So I'll have it check every single day within that week. Click update. And then now my Lunch and Learn intelligent agent will run. See how I wrote the description? I wanted you to be able to see how that could help you when you have maybe some similar ones. Here's one that I ran before. It was a test, and it does give me ideas, responses of what happened. It ran yesterday at 3. I had 2 users with errors, so there were problems. In my sandbox, I have some demo students. They don't have email addresses, so it couldn't go to them. So that's why I got my errors. But what would be nice is you could notice if there were errors or if it had run successfully, who had gotten it. By the way, when you put their email in there to receive the message, you can put yourself as a CC, as a carbon copy, so that you also get the message that they get and you know who received that intelligent agent, and you can respond, you can be more responsive that way also. Are there any questions or thoughts so far? No? Okay, excellent. I see some shaking heads. Oh, good. And I also had missed earlier that Michelle, she said that she uses intelligent agents to prompt students to log in when they haven't logged in a while. So that's helpful. And you can really see how this can help you if you are teaching more than one course. So maybe you have 100 students that you're trying to keep track of. This can really help you with some of those real basic communications so that it frees you up to have those higher quality communications with students in your personal interactions. So then what I'm going to ask you is, have you used D2L feedback tools? We're going to move into feedback now. So let me start that poll. So excited. Your choices are, yes, I have provided annotations. That's the typing on submitted assignments. Yes, I've provided audio feedback, and you can choose more than one on this one. Yes, I have provided video feedback. And no, what are those? Those are your choices. All right, we're going to go ahead and end the poll. And here are the results. So we have about 78% of people who have at least used those inline annotations. 2 people have provided audio feedback. 2 people have provided video feedback. They could be the same people, because remember, you could reply to more than one. But we still have, and we have one person in the room who said, I'm not really sure what that is. So we'll describe it a little bit, but I might not go as in depth in the annotations, but I have some links for you, so that'll help. When we look at that, here are a couple of resources, by the way, previous Lunch and Learns that give you more information. One about being able to provide feedback, and one about assignments and annotations in D2L. So you have those links if you'd like to get a little more information than what I go into today. So here's our assignment feedback. So we can add annotated feedback directly in those assignments. We can add audio feedback. A benefit of adding audio feedback is providing that tone of voice. So we know in past assignments, maybe we've written something like, your argument is vague. You need to add a couple more details in order for me to understand your argument. Something like that. If we type it, it could be read, your argument is vague. And it could be, depending upon the student's growth mindset, if they feel like they have room to grow, depending upon how they're approaching that critique, they might feel very discouraged when really you meant, oh, it's a little bit vague right now, but if you just add 2 more things, or if you elaborate on this idea, that will really help your argument. When I add the tone of voice, just now you heard that really there was enthusiasm in my voice. There was a noted friendliness in my voice. If you only read it as it was typed, there could be a lot of opportunity for students to misunderstand the helpfulness of your comments. And when you add video feedback, that's really what my research was about, was how video can help build those connections. You can provide your tone of voice and facial expressions. So you can smile at students. You can let them know that that you are providing this feedback with the intention of being helpful. And the other opportunity for facial expressions is as they're watching your face, if you're referring to something on the screen, they will actually watch where you're looking and follow your eyes. It's really cool. There's some reasons to provide that feedback, to facilitate student progress and to provide student suggestions for improvement and to give resources for enhanced understanding. One of the things to think about with this, though, is there are a couple of kinds of feedback. There's this time feedback. So there's feedback that's right now on this assignment. This is how you did. And then there's also next time feedback. So you can make some of those statements that help them understand how they can use what they're learning now in a future assignment. And you can be really explicit with that. This page is a little bit crazy, but I just want to show you some of these examples. This is that inline annotation that we had about 3/4 of the room have used this. I can type on the page. I can highlight on the page. I can draw on the page. This is a little note that I put in there. When the student clicks on the note, it opens up for them. I can hear your voice in these words. Here's another different shape of a note that I can put in there. Good plan with some organization could use more transition words. And I want you to kind of notice that the feedback that I'm providing, I'm not just saying, good job, nice work. I'm trying to give them a few more words in that feedback, help them understand what they did that was so good or what they need to do to improve. There's also a rubric in the assignment. Rubrics are great to use, and I'll give you a link to another lunch and learn about rubrics too, if you need to go deeper into that topic. But rubrics are great. You can actually set them up to provide automatic feedback. If generally students who score, for instance, poorly in one area of the rubric generally need a specific kind of resource to review, you can put that into your rubric. You can type your feedback. And again, this is an HTML editor. You can put your Bitmoji in there to kind of soften the blow if you like, or to celebrate. And you can see I have a graphic organizer that I added as a resource. I also added audio and video feedback. You do not have to add both. There's certainly not that expectation. But if you provide inline feedback, you might like to provide audio feedback or video feedback to complement that. Again, so that students hear that tone of voice and or see your facial expression. So this gives you some ideas about how you can provide feedback right inside of D2L. So I'll show you, I have one more poll for you also. This time we're jumping into your student hours. Remember, those were the 3 things we're talking about today? So I'm going to bring that poll up. This one actually has 3 questions in it though. So the first question is about how many students attend your student hours, because usually I hear faculty say, oh, not too many come. But you have choices a lot. We have a lively group. There's just a few, but the connection is so real with those few. Or I hear crickets and I meditate during student hours. Those are your choices. You have the second question, have you used mini lessons in student hours before? And one response is, of course, it's the best way to get them there. And no, but I could consider that. Or you have a never, I've never done that. And then your third question is, have you sent specific invitations for student hours before? You can choose absolutely, not before, but I like the idea, or just a plain no. All right, we'll go ahead and we'll end the poll. and I'll share those results with you. So we had, actually, it looks like most of the people said, well, I do have a few people who come to my student hours, and I feel like the connection is really real with those students. We have mini lessons that we actually had 43% of respondents say, yeah, I've tried that, and it works pretty well. And then finally, we had about 71%, almost 3/4 of the room, saying that they have sent specific invitations for those student hours. Excellent. Okay, great. So we are able to talk a little bit more about those student hours for that effective communication that you might have. So when you hold student hours, those are your opportunities to connect with students. They can facilitate student learning. And sometimes you need to send engraved invitations. We talked about this a little bit in that student panel also. The students brought up how sometimes they just want to be asked. And some of that was about participation during an online course, but some of that was even having that invitation to be able to show up to student hours, to really feel like they're wanted there. And one of the students who shared said that she has found that sometimes it's difficult to know what you don't know. And what I mean by that is sometimes students, they realize that they don't understand what's going on, but they're not sure how to voice that. So one thing you might do when I'm talking about engraved invitations, for instance, you might put in an announcement or send an email to your class list that says, in the past, I've had students who had these 2 questions about the upcoming assignment. I'm going to talk about the answers to those questions in student hours. Come on and show up and we can talk about it. In some research, Lowenthal and Dunlap, they proposed student hours and they wanted to rebrand them. So they called them happy hours. Decide what works for you, of course. But what I really liked about what they did is they also put in a mini lesson. It was only about 5 minutes. They tried to keep it really short. And they were targeted to upcoming assignments or upcoming projects or labs to really help with that understanding. And one thing that they did do is they recorded those mini lessons, at least that part, even if they didn't record the whole student hours. They recorded that so it was accessible to all their students, even if they couldn't come for the student hours. But they had that opportunity. And it helped kind of give value added to those student hours. See something in the chat, let's see. Yes, I understand, that's right. And sometimes student hours, they can be difficult to be able to get students there, but sometimes offering kind of that carrot can help. And I wanted to show you here's an idea. You can put those student hours on your information page, your instructor information page that's in your Getting Started module. If you haven't seen the new template for the instructor information page, this is what it looks like at the bottom. It has this little calendar here. So you can type your student hours right in there and it provides that visual example for students. And sometimes even being able to just have kind of that picture of it can help students recognize when those happen and put it into their brain a little bit more. Or I hope Charlene's okay with it. I gave you an example of her homepage because I really like this widget on the side. She's really making herself available to students with her contact information. She made sure her email's listed there, her office phone, her remote phone. She's got clicking to access Zoom sessions and her course schedule. But I also thought that this is a great place to be able to offer your student hours as well in a little widget. If you need some help being able to set up widgets, we also have lunch and learns for that. So there's lots of things and a couple coffee talks too. So we do have several resources for you there. Are there thoughts or questions about the office hours? How have you been able to, like a specific way you've attracted students to your office hours or your student hours? In addition to scheduled hours, I have separate drop-in hours specific to the courses I teach. So being able to, when you have those opportunities, to be able to offer them. Excellent. And have you been able to offer opportunities if students want to reach out to you individually for those tutoring sessions that we saw some students mention that if they need you, you can try to be there. I know it's difficult. We have lots of busy lives. Okay, excellent. So those are some ways that you can increase that communication with students. Yeah, and I do realize that for adjunct instructors, it can be a real challenge too. That's one of the reasons in those communication plans, you might want to add for adjunct instructors that you work during the day to let them know that I might not see your email because I have another job too. And it just helps students recognize and really they do feel a little bit of a connection to you if you talk to them about that. Or for instance, if weekends, if you might not respond on the weekends, if you let them know in the communication plan, then they realize that their email to you wasn't lost, but you reassure them, whatever it is, it's okay. We'll take care of it on Monday. It's okay. And helping them understand that and that you're there. That was one of the things that came in that student panel, is just letting students know you're not going to give up on them. We're here together. We're going to work together. I saw an unmute. Anyone want to say something?
Sorry. I think it's important too to I make sure I communicate with my adjuncts to let them know that it's important for them to communicate to the students that they do not have specific, off student hours as full-time faculty and staff. And so, to set boundaries, even though they use a Remind app, to still set boundaries that, I'm not taking a text at 11 o'clock at night, unless you want to, but I think that's part of the important communication too, that we're communicating with our adjuncts so that they have, they're not leaving our students hanging either.
That's a good tip. One of the things that can help also, even if you have adjunct hours, but being able to sign into Zoom 5 or 10 minutes early and being able to stay 5 or 10 minutes late. So maybe you don't have the extra student hours, but even just those few minutes. And for some of your students who are online students, and only that might be the little bit of time that they get to connect to you and to other students in an less structured way or an unstructured way. So just those extra 5 or 10 minutes, if that's what you can carve out regularly, can be nice as well. And it's the same if you were in person, right? That you might show up 5 minutes early for the class or 10 minutes early, open the door and you're there so that you can talk to students or stay for a few minutes after to answer questions. It's a similar response. And we do have another response in the chat that sometimes adjuncts, it might be nice if a full-time colleague can share hours. And if some of those students of the adjuncts might be able to come to the full-time faculty student hours. So being able to advertise those, if you can have that coordination, that can be really helpful for everyone involved. Great idea, Carrie. Thanks. Excellent. So today we talked about some tools and some real strategies that you can use moving forward to communicate with your students. And really, and again, those came from the student surveys and from that student panel. We will be looking at more information in the future, but I wanted to tell you for more things from CCIT, there's one thing in between our next Lunch and Learn. There's a coffee talk, but it's a very extra special early coffee talk. It starts at 8:30, so note that earlier time so that you won't miss it. It's 8:30 to 8:45 because there's a college-wide professional development session about distance education at 9 o'clock, which is normally when coffee talk is. But they wanted to help you get your caffeine early to be ready for that college-wide professional development. So tune in for that. And then on March 2nd, we're going to talk about effective videos and courses. So that came again from that student panel and also from the survey results, that being able to see some of those introduction videos or when instructors are making maybe some how-to videos. And we're going to talk about how you can do those. It's not really going to be an editing session though, because guess what? Your students want to see you as a real person anyway. They don't want it to be this polished, terribly professional production. they don't mind if you flub up a word a little bit. Just make sure you're understood and that they can get the information. But we're going to dig a little more deeply into that at that Lunch and Learn on the 2nd. So thank you for coming today to talk about effective communication with students. And I'll be here for any more conversation that you like. But thank you for talking about intelligent agents, feedback in D2L, and how you can use your student hours. Thank you.